Let me show you something strange. Imagine a couple living in a decent American suburb. She works in marketing, earning about $59,000 a year. He works in tech, making roughly $69,000. Together, they bring in almost $128,000 annually. On paper, they're doing great. That income places them comfortably above the average American household. They should be building wealth, saving aggressively, and feeling financially secure. But instead, they feel constantly stressed, living paycheck to paycheck, and one unexpected bill away from panic. So what went wrong? How can a six-figure household still feel financially fragile? The answer might surprise you, because the real problem isn't income. It's something economists call the two-income trap. The illusion of two incomes. For decades, we've been told something that sounds obvious. Two incomes are always better than one. If one person earning $55,000 can support a household, then two people earning $55,000 each, one person earning $55,000 can support a household. Then two people earning $55,000 each should be able to support that same household and have another $55,000 left over. More savings, more investing, more security. Simple math. Except real life didn't work that way. Instead, something very different happened, and it quietly reshaped the entire middle class. The research that shocked economists. Back in the early 2000s, Harvard professor Elizabeth Warren studied bankruptcy cases across the United States. She and her research team analyzed nearly 1,900 families that had filed for bankruptcy. They expected to find irresponsible spending or poor financial planning. Instead, they discovered something shocking. Families with two working parents were often more financially vulnerable than single-income households. Let that sink in. Two paychecks, twice the work, but more risk of financial collapse. This phenomenon became known as the two-income trap. What life looked like 50 years ago. To understand this trap, we need to rewind a few decades. In the early 1970s, roughly 4 out of 10 women participated in the workforce. Most middle-class families relied on a single primary earner, usually the father. And surprisingly, that one income was enough. A typical household spent roughly 24% of its income on housing. They could afford groceries, healthcare, transportation, and still save a little. They even had room for family vacations once in a while. But most importantly, they had financial margin. They had breathing room, and they had a backup plan. If the primary earner lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. That second income acted like an emergency reserve. What changed? Fast forward to today. Now, in more than 60% of married households with children, both parents work. Two incomes are no longer the backup plan. They're the baseline requirement. At first glance, this should make families richer. After all, the median household income today is around $77,000, higher than decades ago. But look at what happened to costs. Housing prices that once averaged around $210,000 in today's dollars now exceed $420,000. Healthcare spending has risen by more than 500%. Childcare now averages around $13,500 per child per year. In some cities, it's over $24,000 annually. College tuition has increased more than tenfold since the 1980s. In other words, costs didn't just rise, they exploded, and they absorbed the second income almost entirely. The hidden math of dual incomes. Let's break down the math. Imagine a couple earning $120,000 combined. One partner earns $72,000, the other earns $48,000. Now let's examine what actually happens to that $48,000 second income. First come taxes. After federal, state, and payroll taxes, that paycheck might shrink to roughly $31,000 take-home. Next comes childcare. Average daycare costs around $14,000 annually. Now that second income drops to $17,000. Add commuting costs. Gas, maintenance, and insurance for another commuter can easily reach $6,000 per year. Now you're down to $11,000. But we're not done. Dual income households often spend more on convenience, takeout food, delivery apps, house cleaning, prepared meals, because when both parents are exhausted after work, time becomes extremely valuable. These expenses can easily reach $6,000 or more each year. Suddenly, that $48,000 income might only add about $5,000 to the household. Someone is working full-time for the equivalent of about $25 per day in net benefit. The psychological trap. Here's where things get tricky. Even though the net benefit is small, the gross income looks huge. When you see $120,000 on your tax return, it feels like you should be wealthy, so you make financial decisions based on that number. Banks approve mortgages assuming two incomes. Car dealers approve loans based on two incomes. And slowly your lifestyle expands until it requires both paychecks to survive. That's when the trap snaps shut. Why dual income families are vulnerable. A single income family from decades ago had something modern households often lack: flexibility. If one paycheck disappeared, they could adapt. Today's dual income families often can't because the mortgage, car payments, childcare, and insurance were all designed around two permanent incomes. If one partner loses their job or gets sick or needs to take time off, the entire financial structure starts to collapse. The emergency problem. A Federal Reserve survey revealed something shocking. About 38% of Americans couldn't cover a $500 emergency expense without borrowing money. Many of those people live in dual income households. They're not poor. They're simply overextended. Their expenses expanded to consume every dollar they earn. So what's the solution? You don't necessarily need to eliminate a second income, but you do need to change how you structure your life. Instead of building your lifestyle around two incomes, build it around one. This is what I call the one income foundation. Your essential expenses, housing, transportation, food, and insurance, should ideally be manageable on a single paycheck. The second income then becomes a powerful financial tool: savings, investments, debt payoff, financial freedom. What this looks like in real life. Imagine your household earns $125,000 combined. Instead of buying a house that requires $100,000 in income to support, you buy one that requires closer to $60,000. Instead of two car payments, maybe you keep one reliable car. Instead of stretching for the biggest house in the best neighborhood, you choose something comfortable but manageable. Then you invest the difference. Over time, something incredible happens. Your investments start generating income. Compounding begins to work in your favor. And eventually, you gain something most people never achieve: real financial security. At the end of the day, this isn't really about income. It's about options. The ability to change careers, take time off, handle emergencies without panic. Two incomes don't automatically create that freedom. In fact, they can sometimes destroy it, because if both incomes are already committed, then neither of them is optional. The families who succeed financially today aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who protect their flexibility. They refuse to let their lifestyle expand to consume every dollar they earn. Because once your expenses require both incomes, you're no longer building wealth. You're simply running faster on a treadmill that never stops. Now that you understand the two-income trap, the real question is, what are you going to do differently? If this video helped you see money in a new way, hit the like button and subscribe for more content about building